Welcome to Good Screenwriting. I'm Trevor Meyer, and today I'm going to answer the question, who is the protagonist of Terminator 2: Judgment Day? Now, I've heard all three answers. All right, based on this picture here, nobody's ever said that the T-1000 is the protagonist, all right? He's the big floating head on the left. He's the antagonist, for sure. He's the bad guy, he's the villain. But what about all these other characters here? Is it the Terminator? Is it Sarah Connor? Is it John Connor? I've heard arguments for all three, and I'm about to give you another one. All right, so some would say it's John Connor because he's the everyday person who's being pulled into this strange world, and he's the one who goes on a journey and crosses over, in the hero's journey sense, from the ordinary world to the extraordinary world. All right? Some would say that it's Sarah Connor because she was the protagonist of the first movie, and we're on her journey, we hear her voiceover, so it's from her point of view, and it ends with her. And some would say the Terminator, because he's the guy in the middle, he's the guy on the poster. All right? He's the main character, he's in the title, why not? All right, so there are a lot of different reasons for all these choices, and maybe I should ask the question, does there even need to be a protagonist? In my mind, yes. It helps because it gives the entire story a spine to wrap the rest of the movie around, all right? So I need to know, maybe protagonist, well, protagonist is a good term to use. Hero is another. Another one that people don't use very often, but I think is helpful, is main character. Who is your main character? And I think that softens the blow of what I'm about to tell you here, which is that I think the best way to figure out a protagonist in a film is based on screen time. And you might not think that that's, what does screen time have to do with the story? Well, your screen time is how much time you spend with a particular character. I'm talking about character screen time, not actor screen time. All right? It's the amount of time you spend with a particular character. And the more time you spend with someone, the more you get to identify with them. All right? So the main character is not going to be somebody with very little screen time. All right? And typically, I believe, even when they give out Oscars, lead actor is based on who has the most screen time. Usually. I believe Marlon Brando won the award for Best Actor, for The Godfather, even though Al Pacino was actually the main character with the most screen time in that movie. All right. Now, in Terminator 2: Judgment Day, here's the claim I'm going to make. The protagonist, the main character, the hero of the story is, in fact, the Terminator. Now, why do I say that? Well, I ran through and I crunched the numbers, took a stopwatch to it. I mean, it's not the most scientific method, but the numbers were different enough for me to see a pattern here. All right, so the Terminator has 44 minutes of screen time in this movie. Second place, we have Sarah Connor. Sarah Connor has 40 minutes of screen time. That's 4 minutes less. John Connor has 37 minutes of screen time. That's 3 less than Sarah. The T-1000, big bad guy on the left, he had 20 minutes of screen time. Think about that. He was only on screen for 20 minutes in that movie. But wait, it gets better. Miles Dyson, the next most important character in the film, was only on screen for 9 minutes. This movie's over 2 hours long. Miles Dyson was on camera, on screen, for 9 minutes. And Dr. Silberman, 6 minutes. He was in it for 6 minutes. All right? So, when you crunch the numbers, Arnold Schwarzenegger was on screen 32% of the time. Now, that is pretty significant. If you think about that, this movie is over 2 hours long, and about a third of the time, Arnold Schwarzenegger is on the camera, on screen. All right? That means that if you were to randomly generate a frame from this movie, you have a 1 in 3 chance of having a picture of Arnold Schwarzenegger show up. All right? That's pretty significant. So, I don't know why I was initially resistant to this idea that he could be the hero. I guess it was because he wasn't human. But this is why I insist on there being a protagonist and that you know who the protagonist is, because everything else is built around it. All right? So, and really the protagonist should be the one who has the biggest character growth. And it is the Terminator. Like, he's not human, but he does have a huge arc. And it's his mission that we're following. All right? So, now in the first movie, you might say, well, why isn't Kyle Reese the hero? Well, because Sarah gets more screen time. You know what I mean? What do you want me to tell you? All right? In this case, they restructured it so that the Terminator gets most of the screen time. So when you figure that out, you know he's the hero, and you know that the T-1000 is the villain. Okay? So where does John Connor fit into this if he's not the hero, if he's not the protagonist, if he's not the main character? John Connor, and this is where I got messed up, because, you know, we always think of the Terminator as being a father figure to him, but the Terminator's actually younger than John Connor. The Terminator is practically an infant, lifespan-wise and experience-wise. So John Connor is the mentor. John Connor is the mentor figure for the Terminator. So the Terminator's the hero, and John Connor is his Obi-Wan Kenobi, his Merlin, his Gandalf. And it's hard to see because he's a kid, but the Terminator has a lesson to learn, and this little kid, this little 10-year-old kid, teaches him everything he needs to know. And the telltale sign of a mentor is that the mentor doesn't change. The mentor doesn't grow. And you could say John Connor grows. A little bit, but his moral compass never changes. He's the one giving the most sound advice to all the other characters. He's the most level-headed of them all, even at age 10. So, yeah, he's the mentor character. So who's Sarah Connor? Sarah Connor is an ally. She's a team member on Team Terminator. All right, she's an ally, and just like with any great team, there's internal conflict within the group. So they don't get along. They don't have to get along. It's like Tony Stark and Captain America, all right? They don't like each other, but they're still on the same side. They have the same goal, all right? So that's Sarah's role in this. She's not the hero. She's an ally. She's one of the Terminator's allies against the T-1000. But that doesn't mean that things are all nice and rosy. And again, with the supporting cast, the reason why most of the supporting cast will be on the main character's team is because if we see most of the movie from the main character's point of view, we're only going to be seeing the people that they spend the most time with, all right? So whoever they spend the most time with is more likely to be their allies than their enemies, all right? It's very unlikely that the hero is going to spend most of the movie with their enemies, all right? So that's my opinion on it, short and sweet. I think that this is a useful method. It's a concrete method. It's objective. You know, you can take a stopwatch and you can, you know, go through a movie and see how much screen time each character gets to really nail down who the protagonist is. And once you figure that out, you can build the entire rest of the movie around it and use that as a model for your own writing. All right? So I hope this was useful to you. If you have another opinion on how to figure out who the protagonist is, I would love to hear it. I picked the screen time method because it's the most consistent. It's the most reliable. It's not based on opinion or weird, a checklist of things that have to be hit for a protagonist to work. Usually it's just the one you spend the most time with. All right? And that person has a goal, and that's the main spine of the movie. So, but if you have a different model, if you have a different theory, or you read something somewhere that you can share in the comments section for other writers, go ahead and do it. All right? So let me know what you think. This is Good Screenwriting, and I'm Trevor Meyer. See you next time.